There is a verse in the Quran that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, described as the greatest verse in the entire book of Allah. A single verse that contains within it a divine shield so powerful that when you recite it with sincere heart before stepping out of your door, you place your family under a protection that no human security system, no alarm, no locked gate can replicate. And yet, most Muslim families today rush out of their homes every single morning without ever reciting it. I want you to think about that for a moment. Think about the anxiety you carry when your children leave for school. Think about the worry that sits in the back of your mind when your spouse drives to work in traffic. Think about the fear that has become the background noise of modern life, the news cycle, the uncertainty, the sense that the world has become a more dangerous and unstable place. That fear is real, and I am not here to tell you it is imaginary, but I am here to tell you that Allah, the Most Merciful, did not leave you without a response to that fear. He placed the answer inside His own book, and He commanded His Prophet to teach it to us. I have been studying the Quran and the Sunnah for over 40 years. I was trained at Al-Azhar University in Cairo, the oldest Islamic institution in the world, and I have served as an imam to Muslim communities in New York and New Jersey for decades. I have counseled thousands of families through some of the most difficult moments of their lives: loss, crisis, fear. And what I am about to share with you today is one of the most urgent and most neglected teachings from the tradition of the Prophet, peace be upon him, about protecting what Allah has entrusted to you, your family, your home, and your provision. This is not superstition. This is not folklore. This is a practice with roots going back 1400 years, validated by authentic hadith, practiced by the companions of the Prophet, and transmitted through an unbroken chain of scholarship. Today, I am going to share with you the exact surah, the exact method, and the exact sequence that transforms your departure from your home every morning into an act of worship that invites Allah's protection to accompany your family throughout their entire day. And I want you to understand, this practice is one component of a complete system of divine provision and protection that I have identified in the Quran, 12 laws in total. What I am teaching you today is one of the most powerful, but understand that its full power is multiplied when it operates alongside the other pillars of this system. Stay with me until the end, because the most critical piece of instruction, the one element that most people get wrong even when they try to implement this, I will save until the second half of this teaching. If you miss it, the practice loses most of its power, so stay. My father, Sheikh Abdullah al-Rashidi, may Allah have mercy on his soul, was a scholar and a merchant in Amman, Jordan. He used to say that the Muslim home without morning dhikr is like a house without a roof. It may look solid from the outside, but the moment the rain comes, everything inside is exposed. I did not fully understand what he meant until I was 30 years old. Living in New York, struggling financially, watching my family navigate a city that felt indifferent to our struggles. And I remember one particular morning, driving to work, gripped by a fear I could not name. My children were small. The world felt enormous and threatening, and I had completely abandoned the morning practices my father had taught me. That morning, I sat in my car in the parking lot, and I heard my father's voice as clearly as if he were sitting beside me. He used to recite Ayat al-Kursi before leaving the house every single day without exception. He would gather us as children, recite it aloud, and say, "Now we live in Allah's care, not our own." I had forgotten that practice for years. That morning I returned to it, and what happened in the weeks that followed was not a miracle in the Hollywood sense. It was something quieter and more profound. It was the return of sakina, of tranquility, to my heart. And from that settled heart, every decision I made, every action I took carried a different quality. That is how barakah works. It does not always announce itself loudly. It restores the conditions for your best self to operate. I share this because I know what you are carrying right now. I have counseled thousands of Muslims in the last 4 decades, and the fear of not being able to protect your family is one of the most common weights I see people carry. You see what is happening in the world. You do not need me to list the headlines. Economic instability is pressing families from every direction. The cost of living has made parents anxious in ways previous generations did not experience to the same degree. Children face pressures in schools and online that did not exist 20 years ago. The world outside that front door feels more uncertain than it has in a long time. And I am not telling you that one surah makes those external realities disappear. I am telling you something more important. It changes what enters the day with you, and that changes everything. Here is the truth that the Quran establishes clearly, and that the Prophet, peace be upon him, demonstrated through his entire life. Your risk, your protection, your family's well-being, all of it originates from Allah. The Quran says in Surah At-Talaq, verse 3, and I want you to hear this carefully, and whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. Indeed, Allah will accomplish His purpose. That word tawakkul, reliance on Allah, is not passivity. The Prophet said, tie your camel and then trust in Allah. You take the practical steps. You lock your door, you drive carefully, you work hard. And then you add to all of that the most powerful action available to a believer. You align yourself with the divine through recitation and remembrance. One without the other is incomplete. Both together. That is the Islamic model of protection. What I have discovered through decades of study and documented in the framework I call the 12 divine laws of provision and protection is that Allah's guidance on these matters is not scattered random advice. It is an interconnected system. Today, I am sharing with you one of its most essential pillars, the morning protection practice. But understand, this pillar connects to others. The law of gratitude, the law of sadaqah, as shield, the law of halal income, creating spiritual immunity. Each one strengthens the others. What you learn today is foundational, but it is part of something much larger. Now let me teach you exactly what to do. The preparation matters as much as the recitation itself. This is where most people who try this practice make their first mistake. They treat the verses as words to be recited quickly while putting on their shoes. That is not what the Prophet, peace be upon him, taught. The narrations are clear. Morning dhikr is a deliberate act of worship, not a superstitious ritual to rush through. So here is how it begins. Wake for Fajr. If you have not already, make wudu, the ritual purification. There is something important about the physical act of wudu before the morning practice. It signals to your body, your mind, and your spirit that what follows is intentional. You are not stumbling through a habit. You are standing before Allah as His servant, requesting His care for the day ahead. After Fajr prayer, sit for a few minutes. Do not immediately reach for your phone. Do not start the rush of the morning. Sit in the quiet that follows the prayer and establish your niyyah, your intention. Say internally, I am performing this practice for the sake of Allah, to seek His protection over myself and my family, and to begin this day in alignment with His guidance. Then, at the moment before you leave the house, not during breakfast, not while putting on your coat, but standing at the door ready to step out, perform the practice I am about to describe. The first element is Ayat al-Kursi. This is the 255th verse of Surah Al-Baqarah. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, called it the greatest verse in the Quran. The hadith recorded in Sahih Bukhari contains a remarkable narration from Abu Huraira in which a creature he encountered taught him that whoever recites Ayat al-Kursi before sleeping, Allah appoints a guardian over him and no shaitan comes near him until morning. The companions understood from this and from multiple narrations that Ayat al-Kursi is specifically associated with divine protection being dispatched. Scholars throughout Islamic history have emphasized the particular power of this verse at moments of transition, entering and leaving spaces, beginning and ending the day. Recite it once slowly, with understanding of its meaning. It describes Allah as Al-Hayy Al-Qayyum, the ever-living, the sustainer of all existence. It states that His kursi, His footstool, extends over the heavens and the earth. When you recite this, you are not performing an incantation. You are making an act of acknowledgement, recognizing who Allah is, and placing yourself and your family consciously under His custody. The second element is the Mu'awwidhatain, Surah Al-Falaq and Surah An-Nas. These are the last two surahs of the Quran. The Prophet, peace be upon him, taught in an authentic hadith collected by Abu Dawood and At-Tirmidhi that whoever recites Al-Ikhlas, Al-Falaq and An-Nas 3 times in the morning and 3 times in the evening, they will be sufficient for him against everything. The Arabic word used is kafathu. They will suffice him, meaning nothing harmful will reach him that these surahs have not already addressed. Surah Al-Falaq seeks refuge from the harm of creation, from darkness, from those who harm through envy. Surah An-Nas seeks refuge specifically from the whispering that enters the hearts of people, the doubts, the fears, the suggestions that lead people away from clarity and right action. Recite each one 3 times at the door before leaving, not because repetition is magic, but because the Prophet specifically taught this number and this timing from divine instruction. The third element is the dua of leaving the home. This is perhaps the most neglected of the 3 elements, and in my experience, it is the one that completes the protection sequence. It is recorded in authentic hadith in Abu Dawood and At-Tirmidhi that the Prophet, peace be upon him, taught, when a person leaves his home and says, Bismillah, tawakkaltu ala Allah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, in the name of Allah, I place my trust in Allah, there is no power or strength except with Allah. It is said to him, you have been guided, you have been sufficed, and you have been protected, and the shaitan turns away from him. This is the dua, short, powerful, direct. Say it as you step across the threshold, not before, at the moment of crossing. The fourth element, and this is the one I promised you at the beginning, that most people miss. Make dua specifically for each member of your family before they leave. Not a general dua for your household, a specific, named, intentional supplication for each person. The Prophet, peace be upon him, used to make dua for his family members by name. He was a man of enormous responsibilities, leader of a community, receiver of revelation, dealing with the complexities of an entire civilization being built. And yet, he took the time to make specific dua for specific people in his care. When you name your child in your supplication, when you specifically ask Allah to protect them on their journey, to give them clarity in their decisions, to guard their heart from what could harm them, you are activating something the scholars call the dua of the parent, which in Islamic tradition carries a particular weight and acceptance before Allah. Make this your practice. Before anyone in your home walks out the door, face the Qibla for 30 seconds and name them before Allah. Now let me tell you what to expect when you implement this consistently. In the first few days, what you will notice is not external, it is internal. The anxiety that normally accompanies the morning rush will begin to loosen its grip. This is not psychological suggestion. This is the natural consequence of beginning your day with tawakkul, with deliberate, conscious reliance on Allah. You have done your part. You have recited what was taught. You have placed your family in Allah's care by name. You step out of that door knowing that your effort has been coupled with divine petition. The Prophet called this state of settled reliance sakina, and it is one of Allah's gifts to the believers. Within the first week, most people who practice this consistently report that their entire day feels qualitatively different. The same external circumstances exist, the same traffic, the same work pressures, but they move through them from a different internal place. Within 30 days, if you implement this without gaps, and I say without gaps deliberately, because consistency is part of the covenant you are making, you will notice things I have seen in the families I have counseled over 40 years. You will notice protection showing up in forms you did not anticipate, the near accident that did not happen, the situation that could have escalated but somehow resolved, the opportunity that appeared at the right moment. I am not promising you that nothing difficult will ever touch your family. The Quran is clear that this life is a place of trial, but I am telling you with full scholarly integrity that families who operate under a consistent morning protection practice, who align their departure from the home with these divine teachings, create the conditions for Allah's barakah and His protection to be actively present in their lives in a way that families who skip this simply do not experience. The timing of all results is in Allah's hands, but the invitation to His protection is in yours. I want to share a warning, and I share it with full sincerity because I have seen what happens when people approach this practice with the wrong orientation. Do not treat these recitations as transactions. Do not recite Ayat al-Kursi while distracted, rushing, scrolling your phone, and expect the full reality of what these verses carry to enter your day. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said the dua of the heedless heart is not accepted. That does not mean rejected by a harsh judge. It means the vessel is not open to receive. Presence matters, intention matters. When you stand at that door, give it 30 seconds of complete attention. Be there. The words are not a code to unlock a system. They are a communication with the living, aware God who sees your heart before He hears your tongue. The second warning, do not perform this practice while engaging in financial dealings that contradict what Allah has commanded. I have counseled men who recited their morning adhkar and then went to work in arrangements built entirely on riba, on interest-based transactions, and wondered why barakah felt absent from their lives. The Quran does not contradict itself. You cannot call on Allah's protection in the morning and spend the rest of the day in direct violation of His commands and expect the full weight of that protection to operate. This is not a threat, it is a spiritual law. What I have identified across the 12 divine laws of provision and protection is that they are interconnected. Violating one weakens the others. This is why the complete system matters. Today's practice is powerful, but it is part of a larger covenant between you and Allah. We are living in a time when protection has become one of the deepest concerns of Muslim families globally. The anxieties are real, but I want to remind you of something I return to again and again in my decades of study. Allah's instruction through the Quran and the Sunnah was never meant for calm times only. It was revealed across 23 years of constant difficulty, displacement, persecution, economic hardship, and war. It was revealed for exactly the circumstances that feel most overwhelming. The families who held to these practices through the most difficult periods in Islamic history were not protected because the world around them was safe. They were protected because they aligned themselves with the one who holds all safety in his hands. I want to close with this. My father used to say that the morning belongs to Allah before it belongs to the world. Give Allah the first moments, the recitation, the supplication, the deliberate crossing of that threshold in His name, and watch what He does with the rest of the hours. I spent decades organizing these teachings into a framework that anyone can follow. What I have shared today is one critical practice within a system of 12 divine laws. There are 10 more that connect to this one and amplify it. In my next teaching, I am going to reveal another law from this system, one that relates directly to the financial protection of your household and that most Muslims, even practicing ones, have never been taught to implement correctly. If you are serious about understanding the complete picture of how Allah's system of provision and protection works, you will not want to miss it. Subscribe and turn on notifications because that teaching is coming soon. Write in the comments the words Bismillah Tawakkul if you are committing to begin this practice tomorrow morning. I want to see it. I want to know that this knowledge is not just being heard, but being acted upon. That is the difference between information and transformation. And share this video. There is a Muslim family somewhere in your life, a parent, a sibling, a friend, who leaves their home every morning carrying unnecessary fear because no one has ever taught them this. Be the means through which this knowledge reaches them. That sharing is itself a sadaqah. What I have shared today is one piece of something much larger. It works. It has been practiced and transmitted for 14 centuries. But its full power emerges when you understand how it connects to the other pillars. I have spent over 40 years making that connection clear, and I will continue to teach it. May Allah place barakah in your home before the door opens and keep it there when you return. May He appoint over your children and your spouse the protection that no human arrangement can replicate. May He bring peace to your heart so that you walk through this world not with the anxiety of someone unguarded, but with the settled confidence of someone held by the most powerful. May your rizq arrive through doors you did not even know were open, and may this knowledge be a light in your home for generations after you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.